Hey guys, it's your girl Marielle. Welcome back to my channel, Friday Night Light Movie Reviews. So today we're going to be talking about the newest adaptation to Frank Herbert's movie Dune, which is directed by Denis Villeneuve. I think I'm saying his name correctly. Please forgive me if I'm saying it wrong. It's starring Timothée Chalamet, Zendaya, Rebecca Ferguson, Jason Momoa, Josh Brolin, and Oscar Isaac. There's so many other amazing actors, but there are too many to name. So we're going to talk about the pros and the cons of this movie, where it falls in our pumpkin category, and is it a movie that I would recommend you guys watching or going to the theater to watch. So if you stayed for all of that, you might as well go ahead and hit that like, comment, and subscribe button. Please share this video and follow me on my other digital platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. Those links will be put down in the description bar below. So let's just jump right into it. We're going to talk about the plot first. Like I said, this is the newest adaptation to the book Dune. Denis Villeneuve did something different than from the original movie that came out in 1983, and then it was another one in 2003. He split the movie up into two parts. So this first installment is just part one. So if you guys have watched it already, if you haven't watched it yet and you're just waiting for these reviews, I just want to give you a heads up. It is part one. There will be a sequel to this installment of this adaptation. So this video was not going to have any spoilers. Like I always said, I will put something in just for it to explain the context on what I'm trying to get across to you guys. So the plot of this movie is Paul from Atreides is a gifted boy born into a great destiny beyond his understanding. He must go to the most dangerous planet, which is Arrakis, where he begins to have visions of a girl and the future of what their civilization is going to look like. And it comes down to it, only the ones who are not conquered by fear will survive. So this movie, if you read the books, if you've seen the original movie, because I went back and watched the original just to have some type of context to see if it upholds the book by Frank Herbert. So this movie definitely gives you all these amazing scientific technology, just things that as kids and as us as adults now would kind of visualize what the future would look like. Now this movie is based in 10,091, so there you go. That's how far in the future it is. So just like that, we get this movie. So I have to say that I didn't read the book, right? So only because most of the time the book is better than the film, but for how they went about the movie with the technology and giving us the factions and how the future would look like, I feel like it may have done the book justice. You guys tell me in the comments. The first scene pulls you in. I mean, it begins with Paul and he's in and out of a dream, and he's having these visions of the Freemen, who are like, I guess like the desert faction or whatever. And everything is, trying to hide from the worm and the movie, trying to get the civilization's most expensive and most important thing in the world, which is spices. And Arrakis, that planet, the air is filled with the spices. It's just such a great start to this movie. And I think with doing the first part and kind of leaving us on a cliffhanger is amazing by the director. The costumes, the sound design, acting, and casting, it was all perfect. I mean, everybody played their part so fantastic. I mean, Oscar Isaac as the king, but Duke. So in this time, the royalty is military. Like everybody's faction is like kind of with soldiers and a leader. And then the biggest leader out of all of the factions is the emperor, who gives all of these different directions and giving certain factions, certain houses protection or rule over other ones. So let's talk about Jessica, who was played by Rebecca Ferguson. She is what is called a Bene Gesserit. In the movie, it's kind of viewed as like a cult, like the Illuminati, or in some characters' words, witches. The costumes that they had for these characters. There is a scene in the movie where the mother of the Ben Gesserits are walking, but she doesn't look like she's walking. She looks like she's floating. I mean, the costumes were beautiful. It kind of, when you see it, it's like everything that was picked out for each thing was done perfectly. Also, the mechanics of this movie was so dope. Like I don't want to call them spaceships, but I also don't want to call them helicopters. But we know that they all go, the propellers spinning. In this movie, in the future, it's kind of like the dragonfly. That's kind of like the wings of the ship or the helicopter or whatever. I thought it was just so super dope, and it wasn't over the top. Like, again, like I mentioned in the factions, we have the Freemen. They are like the desert people. They survive in the desert. They survive through the heat. They have these special suits to help them turn their sweat into filtered water, so you'll be safe, which I thought it blew my mind. The military dressing, again, going back to the costume design, was great. I mean, the costumes for everybody, from the suits, from the Freeman suits, from the military dressing, the Ben Gesserit, their costumes, whoever did the costume design needs definitely, I know there's definitely going to be some Oscar buzz on all of the facets of this movie. There's another scene where we see how they communicate. It's all ships coming from different houses on the order of the emperor. There's a herald who's this beautiful chocolate man. Just that scene development it's just super dope. The movement of everything was executed perfectly. Also, the love that Jessica and Leto, who is played by Oscar Isaac, was something I would have liked to see more. I heard in the book their relationship is pretty much explored more. I won't say it's a negative, but it would have been something to see the development, so we can understand the questions that were asked, how Timothée Chalamet's character Paul moved with his mother and his father. I think it just would have given us a little bit more content. The fighting scenes were amazing. Jason Momoa in this movie was so dope. He reminded me of Gerard Butler in 300. So I'm not going to really go into that because I said this is no spoilers, but just know Jason Momoa, his scenes, freaking amazing. The way that they showed Paul's visions, it's not like if you ever watched a religious movie or anything like that, where it comes to someone where like they knock on the floor or whatever, but just the way they did the scene setup for his visions, they made it seem as if he was, I don't know, it just, the way the scenes of his visions were set up was just freaking amazing. Also, again, let's talk about the acting. Timothée Chalamet, his acting for this movie. There's a scene where I'm pretty sure it was in the trailer, so it's not really a spoiler, where he's with the Ben Gesserit, the mother, the leader of that faction, and she's asking him questions. I mean, his facial expressions, I love it. I love his facial expressions, from his fear, excitement, anger. I mean, the way he executes each scene was done so perfectly. And as well as Rebecca Ferguson's character, because through a good portion of the movie, you just see the interaction between Paul and Jessica, mother and son. And I have to say the acting was just so dope. I can't wait for the sequel. I just can't wait to see Timothée Chalamet's character Paul as he grows as a man, as his power grows, as his premonitions, and where he falls in line with his mother, with her and her ulterior motives. And I can't wait for all the new characters that are going to be introduced in this movie. Again, the cinematic prowess of this movie was unmatched. Denis Villeneuve, I don't know if I'm saying his name right. Please let me know in the comments. I mean, some people may say, man, I wish it didn't leave us on a cliffhanger, because we do know that there's a sequel coming out. But I mean, guys, the way he executed from the very first scene to the last scene was so dope. I mean, the camera angles, where it was dark, where it was light, where it allowed, there's a scene where you physically can see the spices in the air. And I mean, it was just so dope. The sandworm looked like just like a big ass worm from like Tremors, if you know that movie or whatever. But I mean, the explanation of each faction, the culture that he brought to this, to the screen was great. I mean, even finding out what each faction is, finding out at the end of the day, which is kind of scary and sad, but for this movie was just done perfectly for us to see. We're in 2021, and to see this imagined world in the year 10,091 and still see that we're still fighting, we're still separating, we're still having someone wanting to chase the ultimate power. It kind of gives you this sad notion of our civilization, but the way the director did it was just fucking phenomenal. For me, Dune gets 5 pumpkins. I would definitely recommend you guys watching the first installment. It's going to hold you to the point where you're going to be so excited at the end, you're going to want to see the sequel immediately. The acting was top notch. You cannot tell me this is not going to get Oscar buzzing. I really was reading some articles where people are even making these predictions. I mean, between Timothée Chalamet and Rebecca Ferguson, the sound, the costume design, everything about this movie was done excellent. So definitely give it a watch. If your movie theaters are open in your area, definitely get that theater experience. Mine's are not. I watched it on HBO Max, but I did have the lights down and it did still give me a pretty good movie feel. But I'm telling you guys, watch this movie. You will not be disappointed. If you are disappointed, something's wrong with you, and we can discuss it in the comments. So we are at the end of this video. Thank you guys for staying with me. As always, be safe, be courageous, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.